Hello, everybody. I'm Ken, and I've got Rich on the distant end in England, and we're back today to discuss Epic Dads. And we've been covering for the last several weeks, after an introduction of the Epic Dad program, we've been covering the individual letters that make up the acronym E.P.I.C. and talking about what those letters mean and the relevance and significance to Rich and the overall program behind each one of those meanings. So we covered E for encourager, P for provider in the last several weeks, and today we're going to talk about I for instructor. How you doing, Rich?
I'm doing great, Ken. Great to see you.
Great to see you too. So, let's see. These last two discussions have been fantastic. I've learned a lot more about your program, which I've known about Epic Dad for several years, and so I'm still learning about the program, and have gotten to know you better as a person because you're revealing your own inner motivations and desires with the program through the meaning that you've put behind these letters. So I'm excited today to talk about instructor. So let's jump into it. Tell me what the significance of the instructor and its relevance to fatherhood. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the word instructor really it refers to being a teacher and being an example to our children, the things that we can pass on to them. And if we're honest, most of what our children learn from us is caught, not taught. I think sometimes we think it's about, the things that I say and what I'm passing on that way to teach them, but many of the things they pick up through little bits of conversation, kind of our kind of attitude to other people, the way we deal with challenging situations. They're always listening, they're always watching,
Mhm.
and they are learning, and we are teaching them by how we do life. And the challenge for us as dads is we want to do it well. We want to be that example. We want to be consistent. We don't want to say, do as I say, not as I do. We really do, don't we? Want to practice what we preach, to be that instructor that the children can trust, the children can rely upon, that they know where they stand with us. They know why we say yes to some things, why we say no to other things, that there is a relationship there, there's an openness there, and there's that consistency on our part. So for me, being an instructor is all about modeling a life, hopefully, that will inspire and teach and help my children as they grow up. It's about passing on values and beliefs and work ethic, passion for life, all these different things that are important to us that we can model and seek to pass on to them to help them as they get older. I often make this reference that a few years ago, when I just was doing a few jobs at home, my youngest son was watching TV. He was watching Ninjago, a classic cartoon based on the Lego range. And as I was just going about my day, doing some jobs in the house, I just heard this line from the cartoon that really stuck with me. And the line was, "We don't leave a destiny with our children, we leave a legacy."
Hmm.
And that really struck me. I thought, yeah, that's right, because we don't want to force our children down a certain road. And, we've planned out their whole life for them. This is your destiny, this is what you're going to do. But instead, we do want to leave a legacy by passing on love, values, teaching them right from wrong, all these things that they are equipped, that it's a foundation for their life. They can build on that as they go forward and make decisions and follow the path they feel is right for them. But we've done our bit by putting in, doing the groundwork in those early days. And I think sometimes parents, we need to be careful. We're not trying to micromanage our children's lives and their decisions and the paths they take. We can give advice, we can share our thoughts, our own experiences, but we can't live their lives for them. We can't dictate what they're going to do. Like, you must go to college because I didn't get to go to college, that kind of idea. We don't want to be trying to live our dreams through our children. We want, to pursue our own dreams and encourage them to pursue their dreams. So it's not about being an instructor, is how can I leave a legacy for my children to help them as they grow and go through life, rather than I'm trying to leave a destiny and trying to pre-program how things are going to be for them. That's not
Mm.
my job, but my job is to give them that strength, strong base on which to build on.
That's such a great comparison. There's so many examples I've seen in now 30 years of raising kids, or probably in my own case, and then witnessing friends and other folks in the school system, for example, where I see evidence that the child's life is being micromanaged. You know, the parent has come up with this sort of script of you're going to get straight A's in school, and then you're going to go off to a great college, and you're going to do, maybe not specifying the exact career, but you're going to do a professional career, and they're coming up with all of these extraneous extracurricular activities that the child has to participate in order to literally build a resume as a primary or elementary school child from a very early age, in order to convince the world that they are worthy and capable and achieving. You know, it's like you're building a business person. You're not teaching a child. You're building somebody for industry is really
Mm.
the impression that I get from that. So I like the way you theme that, build a legacy. Um, when I think of instructor, I actually had several years when I was in the military where I was an instructor. And so I was in front of classrooms of students. And before each class, I would spend sometimes 2 or 3 hours sitting down with a curriculum and studying all the major topic points and transitions and what I was going to say and the questions I was going to ask. And it was very organized, very regimented. And when I think of instructor, that's usually what first comes to mind, but that's not what we're talking about here. You know, the instructor aspect of being a dad, usually there is no script, there is no curriculum, there is no organization really, from 1 hour to the next or day to day or year to year. So how do you feel, or what advice do you give dads as far as with that lack of structure, what should they do to better build their own instructor capabilities or capacities?
I think alongside thinking about being an instructor is to think about discipline as well and how we discipline our children. And historically, the dad comes home, lays down the law if the children have misbehaved. So there's very kind of clear rules of what's expected, but there wouldn't necessarily be that warmth and that close relationship. So I kind of see disciplining my children as part of instructing them, but in a way that's very kind of relational, that I hear them out, I share, what I feel is right and why I expect certain things, but it's always for their own benefit. So I really want to help dads to see that their role isn't just to give orders, but they are to interact with their children, um, problem solve with them, support them in their decisions, uh, and see like it's not about punishment. And that's the thing. I think sometimes when people have thought about how we instruct and teach and discipline, it's punishing the children for doing something wrong.
Mhm.
When rather than punishment, let's make things positive and say, I'm not going to punish my children for doing wrong, but I want to discipline them in a way for helping them see what would be right and better for them to do. So it's again kind of that whole thing of like reframing and changing our approach where you protect the relationship, you want to help we want to help our children learn and grow as a person so they become more responsible, more confident, more resilient. I talk to dads and when they reflect on their own childhoods and they sometimes even forget what they got in trouble for. They just know they didn't like the punishment.
Mhm.
And actually, that's not really achieved anything other than creating a bad memory and bad experience. But if we can discipline our children with, choices and consequences, having conversations, helping them see why a certain way is a better way, it's working with them to learn and grow and achieve. So you're more hands-on rather than from a distance, just barking orders, but you're
Mhm.
actually helping them become a more rounded human being. Is our goal. And I loved what you said earlier about we're not preparing them for industry, business. We're not trying to, just get them to tick all these boxes because we don't want to fall into that trap where it's all about that outward success. When actually the way we're instructing and disciplining and teaching our children is so they grow up to be a kind person, a
Mhm.
generous person, a good citizen, that they, that's surely the success we want to see in their life more than all these other achievements and accomplishments, although they're not bad in themselves, but for them to feel happy and secure in who they are, and that we've helped instill in them the values that matter most, and not get sidetracked by other things.
That's incredible. It really is. Like so many of these concepts, I think that you're introducing, it's a new look, a new way of teaching. Where previously we've been knowledge and experience oriented, trying to pack as much book knowledge and analytical information into our children's brains as possible, and calling that success as a parent or a teacher. Um, Now I think the world seems to be growing into this understanding that we would rather have individuals who are self-managing and self-controlling and operating as you put it, kind, compassionate, and capable of dealing with other people without getting triggered into those lower emotions of anger and fear and frustration and despair automatically. It doesn't mean you can never be angry, but that should not be your automatic response when something fear-inducing or frightening happening happens outside you in your environment. So it's almost like a it's almost like the whole thing is a transition to, we're not saying knowledge and information is no longer important. We're saying we need to now focus on being a balanced individual where you're not only knowledgeable, but you're capable of managing and directing yourself in
Yes.
a loving and balanced way in society. Um,
Hmm.
you sort of brought up the concept of errors and mistakes, and this is one I think is so important because we're taught from a very early age. You make a mistake, there's a consequence, there's a punishment that comes with that. Here's the punishment, and that to me has always looked and felt like a negative influence. It as you put it so beautifully, it's like you forget even the reason that you got the what you were
Mm.
supposed to learn and the reason that you got punished, and all you remember is the pain and the suffering that came along with that consequence. And now this sort of more mature and evolved approach, it seems like a lot of folks are starting to open up to, is it's okay to talk about mistakes as mistakes, but look at them as experiences and learning opportunities and not as strictly an isolated incident that needs to be disciplined and punished for its own sake.
Mhm.
Um, how important do you think it is to, as a dad or a parent in general, but we're focused on dads here, um, to reveal some of their own life mistakes and errors to their children? Like, is that an area that we could or should be comfortable getting into and using as a way to teach them about the okayness with regard to making mistakes?
I think so, because it just shows that we're not afraid to be real, vulnerable, open and honest with our children. And, I may share things that I've got wrong, things I've learned from that, how I've grown as a person, how I've gone on to make better mistakes, better decisions uh, down the line. And I think that's helpful for them. But also, if I know I've done something wrong in regards to my children, I will apologize to them. And I think that's I think really powerful, rather than to double down and think, well, my behavior, my response was justified because you did this. You're not really teaching them, well, you're teaching them the wrong kind of message, that you can't be wrong. And we don't want our children growing up thinking they
Yeah.
can't be wrong. We want to model humility rather than pride, and own our mistakes and apologize when we need to. And I think when I've done that with my kids, I think our relationships have with my children have benefited as a result, because
Mm.
I'm not trying to be perfect. Well, I'd like to be epic,
Uh-huh.
and
You're
someone
always
that,
epic.
oh, bless you, someone that they can go to, rely upon, someone who's not afraid to admit when he's done wrong. And my hope is that they would come to realize they too can live that way, that
Mhm.
they can admit it when they've said or done something wrong. They can rather than lie about it or put the blame on someone else, but they would see the value of because that's how you learn and as you grow is to admit fault. I heard this phrase I found quite helpful is we are to fail forwards.
Mm,
And you hear the word fail and people think, oh, that means I'm a failure. No, you're not a failure. You've just learned how not to do something. That's not the end of the story. This is a wonderful learning opportunity.
mm.
You can fail forwards through this and become a better person, and inspire others too in the choices that they make. Uh, no experience has to be wasted. It can be used in a positive way.
Yeah, to me, the classic example, at least that I can immediately bring to mind, is Thomas Edison inventing the light bulb. I think he told someone one time, he's like, "I didn't, I didn't succeed one time. I failed 1,000 times, and out of that, one of those experiments happened to work." So there was this message of it wasn't the success that was important; it was the willingness to make mistakes and continue, just continue, continue, continue. So obviously somebody like that looks at mistakes as part of the process instead of as something to be avoided or feared.
Yeah.
So that to me is a one of those foundational lessons that I'm trying to get better at, even teaching my own kids now, even
Mhm.
in the older two are full grown adults, but even now I'm trying to sort of reframe the way that I talk about and think about and interact with them about things that could be perceived as wrong choices or errors. They're just experiences, they're just choices that were made that maybe you didn't have all the information, or maybe you didn't really think through all the information that you had available to you, but it's an opportunity to reflect and to bounce back and do better the next time.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing. It's a teaching opportunity. Um,
And I think as dads, we have to be aware that when we are faced with challenging behavior with our children,
mhm.
the real issue isn't the behavior, it's
Mhm.
what's going on under the surface.
Yeah,
It's the whole illustration of the iceberg. Is it like 10% of the iceberg is above the
right.
water
That's right.
and 90% under the water? So it's recognizing that there's more going on. So rather than jump to with a consequence or to get angry or, I need to discipline you for doing that, it's actually looking more deeply in our instructor role to say, right, what do they need from me here? How can I teach them? How can I support them? And it could be that there are some unmet needs there. Maybe they're
Hmm.
just hungry.
Yeah.
Maybe they need a nap. Maybe they just need to spend time with us. And we're so busy that they're misbehaving because they're trying to get our attention. And so if we meet those unmet needs, then I believe that has a positive impact on their behavior as a result.
Yeah.
So it's again, it's looking more holistically, not just in the moment. I'm not happy with their behavior, but actually we love them. We're for them. We don't just want them to comply to give us a quiet life. We want to find out, how can I help them? How can I teach them? What are they struggling with? What are the deeper concerns here and needs that they have? And how best can I work with them and come alongside them through that? And I think that that's a picture I often think of with me and my kids is coming alongside them as an instructor. There,
Hmm.
there's not the distance, there's not me just telling them what I want them to do. There's a conversation, there's a we're walking together on this journey of life of, I'm growing as a dad, they're growing as children into young adults. And I don't know if you find this, Ken, but I often have some of my best conversations with my kids and opportunities to speak into their lives and teach them hopefully some words of wisdom and it will just be a listening ear. I find some of these really meaningful conversations happen when it's not scripted, it's not
Hmm.
planned, it's just natural. We're on a journey together, we're walking through the woods, we're going for a drive in the car. It's on the journey that there's a safe space to talk and I can hopefully teach and advise and just be that help that they need at that time to give them the guidance for their lives. And I feel that our relationships get stronger through through those times.
I absolutely resonate with that and definitely agree. One of the things you were talking about was the difference between addressing the behavior, which is one isolated incident, versus actually taking the time to dive in and figure out what's going on inside this child, mentally, emotionally, maybe physically, or a combination thereof, that's truly causal to whatever the circumstance was. That's so important, and
Yeah.
it requires a level of insight and a willingness to spend time and investigate and actually probe with questions. How are you? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What's going on inside you?
Yeah.
What's really happening? And you can't usually ask those questions in a frustrated and angry and domineering way because the child will
Yeah.
shut down and not
Yeah.
respond. So
That's
those
right.
even to ask those questions requires, especially for a man, like you're the powerhouse of the family, right? The disciplinarian. So a child who sees a man coming at them in a aggressive way is not going to open up and reveal
Mm.
their inner experience at all. What that really is referring to, I think, is helping a child see that self-awareness. When you ask
Yeah.
those questions of the child, you're asking them to reveal an inner element of themselves that they may not normally spend time or focus on at all. And so you're helping them investigate the inside. If you ask a child, what do you if they've just had a emotional outburst, well, tell me what you're feeling right now and what caused that and how do you feel about that? And you're helping them to dive deeper into their own inner emotional experience, which ultimately, through many rehearsals of that in childhood, will ideally lead to an individual who's much more self-aware and capable of
Mhm.
identifying their own inner issues and inner problems and not just reacting in a
Yeah.
triggered way to the environment outside of them.
Yeah.
So important. Like what you're referring to, it to me is this aspect of new growth and new experience that's going to lead to much more self-aware. And when you're more self-aware, you care more about the world around you because
Yeah.
you've sort of created this ability to generate inner peace and inner okayness. You're not always being triggered by everything around you. And now you can stabilize yourself. And when you're stable, you can look outside and look to help and assist others around you who need help and
Yeah.
assistance. So it's all one big thing, one big pie. It's not
Yeah.
just an isolated thing of being the disciplinarian. It's really thinking about I have the responsibility of growing this person into a mature, confident, capable individual
Yeah.
over the course of the time that I'm overseeing their growth. It's a big
That's good.
responsibility, isn't it? Wow,
And
what a deep discussion. Instructor, I think, has so far been of the three letters has been the broadest and most impactful. But it's a very important role. Um, great topic. Rich, anything else before we close out? Anything we haven't talked about that you think is important to get across with regard to the instructor role of a father?
yeah, definitely. It really just builds on what we've just shared, but I often use this illustration to dads. Just imagine you have a backpack, an epic dad backpack that you want to fill with things to give to your child. When they've grown up, they're leaving home. What would you put in their backpack?
Mm,
And so we do it quite visually where they can write or draw pictures inside a backpack of things that are important. And obviously, we can think about practical things we'd like them to have or know, but it's also dads to think about what values, beliefs, what key things have helped you that you want to make sure that your children have in their backpack as they
mm,
go into the world as a responsible adult. So we say to the dads, they need to put inside their backpack things that are important to them that they want to pass on to their children. So things like values, good manners, respect for others, kindness, being a generous person, loving your family, having a sense of purpose for life, all these kind of qualities that dads want to model for their life and embrace. But these are the kind of things they would want to put in their backpack for their child. And that is quite a powerful visual. What do you want your children to have in their backpack that they're going to take through life? And as we've said, it's more than good grades, earning money, having a big job, big career, more than tangible things like money, house, cars. More than that, we want them to be a happy, well-rounded individual who recognizes they're here to make a difference and not just to not primarily to take from the world, but to make a contribution. So I feel for dad as an instructor, it's about preparing our children for adulthood and passing on the good things is going to cause them to be happy and to thrive in life.
Very good. I like that. The great visual of what are you leaving in your child's backpack, and having that reminder in your head every day can maybe make us all a little bit more mindful about the things we say and the way that we treat not just our kids but everybody around us. So fantastic. Great discussion, Rich. Thanks
Thank
again
you.
for all the great work you're doing with Epic Dads and for helping all of us understand a little bit more about what the organization is about. Next episode, we're going to be going into the last of the acronym letters, the C for carer. So looking forward to that coming up in our next discussion. All right, everybody take care. Have an epic afternoon, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.